Welcome to the Worcester Bosch Group Energy House. Now Worcester have bought this typical house to show you that being eco-friendly doesn't mean that you have to go and live in a mud hut or some weird and wonderful new build. Small changes can make a difference, and in this programme we're going to show you what you can do to reduce the environmental impact of your house and improve the energy efficiency. As you can see, the house is a typical 1930s semi-detached that you'll find in any town up and down the country. It has a small extension at the back which has enlarged the lounge and the kitchen. But the whole house will benefit from updating as it's nowhere near as energy efficient as it could be. The windows, although PVCU, are old and will need replacing. The house is having new insulation in the roof and new central heating is being put in upstairs. The boiler is also past its sell-by date and will be replaced. Now, not surprisingly, Worcester have used this house to highlight their technologies. The Green Star A-rated condensing boilers, the Green Skies solar water heating systems, and also the Green Store ground source heat pump. But don't worry, you don't necessarily need all this technology to make a difference. You can pick and choose the bits you need to suit your budget and to suit your particular style of home. So the builders have already made a good start, so let's go and have a look and see what they're up to. Well, as you can see, they haven't been messing around. They've dug up the entire ground floor, taken out all the concrete and all the old wooden joist and floorboards, and they've done this for two reasons. One is so they can get a good layer of insulation into the entire ground floor, and the other reason is that what they want to do is use underfloor heating. Now, this is a series of pipes which are run off your heat source, which in this case will probably be the boiler, although it could be the ground source heat pump. And the idea of underfloor heating is that it can run at a much lower temperature, so it's ideally suited to things like condensing boilers, and it gives an even radiated heat throughout the whole of the house, so you feel warmer even though the actual temperatures are a bit lower. Well, this is the front room, or what my grandmother used to call the parlour, and the floor's been removed in here as well. And another good advantage underfloor heating is that you don't need radiators, of course, and in this bow window that'll save them having one bent especially for this window. But what I really came in here to look at is the double glazing. Now, the whole house has been fitted with PVCU double glazing sealed units throughout, and this is going to be replaced with triple glazing, which is even more efficient. And the triple glazing is going to be argon filled. That's a gas that they put in between the sealed units of glass to make them even more efficient. And there's been one other very important change in double glazing over the last few years, and that is that they now use low E glass as standard. Now, low E glass has a special coating on the inside which traps the radiated heat inside the building. So if you've got a nice south facing window, you're getting plenty of sunshine coming through during the day, it actually keeps that heat within the building and stops it escaping back out through the glass. So it adds even more to the efficiency. Now, as we come upstairs, we've got a slightly different approach, because here they're going to have radiators throughout, and it's going to be carpets, and also the whole place is going to be repainted with eco-friendly paints. That means no solvents. And over here was an airing cupboard with a cylinder in it. That's now going to be relocated closer to the boiler. And one of the important things there is that if you can avoid the long runs from the hot water cylinder to the bathroom and the kitchen and so on, you save quite a bit of energy because that water is just wasted in the pipes. And this is the bathroom. Obviously somebody's pride and joy once, but the suite's now been taken out. The tile's going to be hacked off. There'll be a new suite going in here with water-saving appliances where possible, and the old electric shower's been taken out. They're fairly expensive to run, but of course now we're going to be getting up to 70% of the hot water directly from the solar panel, so that's going to be a big energy saving. And through here we've got the main living area, and this is going to be extended out the back with a brand new conservatory, and inside the conservatory are going to be housed all the Worcester appliances, which is the boiler and so on. Now that's replacing the old boiler, which was a back boiler which sat in there, which was basically a fairly inefficient bit of kit. And over here we've got what's left of the kitchen, which isn't very much at all, but that's going to be totally refitted with FSC materials, which is basically for managed forests. And all the appliances are going to be Bosch A-rated appliances, which give you the highest energy efficiency and the lowest water consumption. And this is a garden, which was lovely and probably will be again. But you might wonder what a garden's got to do with energy saving. Well, in actual fact, any garden can be a valuable source of heat. There's heat in the ground, and that can be transferred into the house using a ground source heat pump. Now, in some gardens, it's big enough just to run a pipe underneath the ground, up and down, and you'd get enough heat out of it. But because this is a fairly small garden, what they're going to use here is a borehole, which will allow them to extract the heat from one single borehole source, transfer it into the house. And as well as the borehole for the ground source heat pump, there will also be another big hole in the ground which will store the grey water recovery tank. Now that recycles the rainwater and the grey water from the house. Another way of getting the best benefit out of a sun's rays is by fitting solar panels, and the solar panels are going to be fitted in a south-facing position up on the roof there. Okay, that's what we're going to do, and yes, it's a lot. It's a complete renovation of the house, as well as adding all the new green technology. Now, most of you won't want to do all of it, but even if you decide to add just one bit of the system, you'll be doing your bit for the environment. Now, there are those cynical non-believers, if you like, who think that because the British climate isn't always sunny, there isn't a lot of point in having solar energy. But in actual fact, these two panels here, even on a day like today when it's pouring with rain, because there's a bit of bright sunlight around, there is noticeable warmth coming out of those panels. And these two panels will supply the hot water for this 3-bedroom house. In the winter, you may get 20–25%. In the summer, you get a full 100%. So the plumbers are just about to put on the second panel here now and connect it up to the first one with a simple push fit. Once that's done and it's connected up down to the cylinder below, the whole system is filled up with a mixture of antifreeze, which is then pumped around the system continuously, and this takes the heat from the panels down into the hot water cylinder. Now, the question that everybody asks is, what's the payback period? If you want to install solar panels, how quickly will you get your money back? And of course, a lot depends upon how sunny it is and how much hot water you use, but you can work on a typical payback period of, say, 10 years. Now, there are grants available, and these will change according to certain circumstances, so we can't be too definite. But certainly from day one, you'll begin to get your money back. And of course, you will be making a very useful contribution to lowering your carbon emissions. Now, the solar panels have been mounted on the roof outside. There's only the pipe work inside to complete. And up here, Richard's just putting on the air release valve, which makes sure that there's no air trapped in the top of it. And then the pipe work is run down in copper. Now, it's a long way down to the cylinder here because it's all going to be used as a display house, but you could actually, in a loft like this, mount the cylinder in the loft itself. It's well insulated, provided it's well supported. It would be close to the solar panel, which would make a nice short run there, and of course you'd then run the pipes down to the kitchen and the bathroom without any difficulty at all. So on those circumstances, with a loft like this, it would be a very easy installation. Since we last visited the site, an awful lot has happened, and typical of the building industry, it's all happening at once. The concrete floor has been laid, the foundations have been built ready for the conservatory, and also insulation has been put on top of the floor. Now this insulation is a polyurethane board with a silver foil on either side of it. And the idea is that that protects the floor from the cold coming up from the ground, but also stops heat loss down through the concrete slab into the ground. And that's very important because the next stage is to lay over the top of the insulation some underfloor heating pipe. Now this is laid, it may look like a random pattern, but it's actually worked out by a computer, and it snakes up and down inside the concrete slab. And when that pipe heats up, it heats up the whole of the screed, and that screed acts as a thermal store. I just want to take a closer look at what's going on the floor here. First of all, this track is put down on the floor and simply clipped through into the polyurethane ball to hold it stable, and into that is laid the pipe. Now this might look like garden hose pipe, but it is in fact virtually indestructible. It's a very, very strong pipe indeed, so there's no need to worry about leaks with it. And this pipe is pressed into the track and snaked up and down back to the manifold, which is positioned out here. And this here is the manifold. Now this is where all the underfloor heating pipes start and finish. They're coming from the boiler, or in this case probably the ground source heat pump, and that's being fed in through here, which is self-evident that's hot, but in actual fact it's not hot, it's only warm. It's actually working at 40 degrees centigrade. Now an average radiator system may be anything around 70, even 80 degrees centigrade, so you can see that this is an awful lot cooler than that. But the key is to get the pipe work distributed so you get this even heat, and the engineers are working to a drawing which has been worked out by a computer, so they know exactly which pattern to lay the pipes in and how far apart. You can actually go down to even lower water temperatures by putting more pipes in, but this has been worked out for 40 degrees centigrade. As the extension is quickly brought up to ground level, this allows a new concrete floor to be laid. The brickwork is very quick to come up to first level, using concrete and thermalite block with a layer of insulation between the two. The exterior is finished with a pebble dash effect, which once completed will be painted along with the rest of the house using environmentally friendly paint. Since I was here last, an awful lot has happened in a relatively short time. The building has been extended. It used to finish about here, and so this is all new work here. And they've used thermal block on the inside, concrete block on the outside, with a cavity wall insulation, so that should help keep the heat in. But they've also used some insulation in the roof space up here, which is a little bit different from the normal insulation. This is in fact sheep's wool. Doesn't look like your jumper, but it's a very good insulation, and of course it doesn't suffer from the problems that you get with glass fibre. On these walls, as an additional thing, they've used smart board. Now this isn't necessarily to keep the heat in because that's being done already. What the smart board does is it acts as a thermal store. Now in the daytime, when you've got sun coming in through the windows and also through the roof light, the building warms up. You may not necessarily need that heat, so you may think about opening the windows to get rid of it. But this smart board actually absorbs that heat. Inside what looks like ordinary plasterboard is a lot of microscopic wax capsules. Now if you think of those like a lava lamp, as they heat up, that wax spreads the heat within the board and it stores it, and it's dissipated evenly throughout the board. In the evening, as the temperature drops, that wax solidifies and the heat is emitted back into the room. So basically it's free heat.